Money feels real. You work for it, you save it, you worry about it, you even lose sleep thinking about it. But here's the thing, most of the money you touch every day doesn't even physically exist. Seriously, you can't hold it in your hands because it's mostly numbers on a screen. And yet, we all treat it like it's solid gold. So what is money really? How does it get created? Why does it lose value over time? And why does the system always seem to favor someone else while you're stuck watching your savings barely keep up? By the end of this video, you'll understand the hidden mechanics of money, the role banks play, why debt rules the world, and why inflation feels like a sneaky tax on your cash. What money actually is. Let's start with the basics. Money is not wealth, it's a tool. That's right, a tool, like a hammer or a screwdriver. Its job is simple: store value, measure value, transfer value. At different points in history, money has taken all sorts of weird forms. Shells, gold, silver, paper bills, fancy coins. Basically, humans have tried everything to make something tangible feel valuable. Today, money is mostly digital. It exists as numbers in bank accounts, ledgers, and apps. Its value comes entirely from trust. Trust that other people will accept it tomorrow for goods, services, or debt repayment. Without that trust, your $100 might as well be monopoly money. Banks don't just store money. Most people think banks are giant vaults where your money sits safely under lock and key. Fun mental image, right? But modern banking doesn't actually work like that. When you deposit $1,000 in a bank, the bank doesn't just shove it into a safe and leave it there. Instead, it keeps only a small fraction, usually a few percent, as a reserve. The rest? It lends it out to someone else. Maybe it's a mortgage for a new house, a business loan, or a car loan. That borrowed money gets deposited in another bank, which then lends most of it out again. This cycle repeats over and over, creating new money in the system. Think of it like a magic trick. You deposit $1,000. The bank keeps $100 and lends $900 to someone else. That $900 gets deposited in another bank, which keeps $90 and lends $810. Suddenly, your single $1,000 deposit has spawned thousands of dollars in the economy. Banks aren't just moving money, they are expanding the money supply. Debt is the foundation. Here's where it gets even crazier. In modern economies, money is created through debt. Every new loan, a mortgage, a business loan, a credit card balance literally creates new money. This means the system depends on borrowing. Growth requires more debt. Paying off all debt would collapse the system. Debt isn't a bug, it's the engine. The more people and companies borrow, the more money exists in circulation. Stop borrowing, the system slows. Stop completely, it collapses. And that's why economists, bankers, and governments spend so much time worrying about interest rates and credit availability. It's not theoretical, it's survival. Inflation, the hidden tax. Ever notice how things seem more expensive every year? That's inflation, and it's basically a hidden tax on your cash. But it's not magic, and it's not random. Inflation happens when more money is chasing the same amount of goods and services. Example, imagine there are 100 houses in a town and 100 people, each with $1,000. Prices are stable. Now suddenly, everyone has $2,000. Same houses, same demand, double the money. What happens? Prices go up, houses cost more, food costs more. Everything rises in value, but your cash is worth less. Inflation quietly reduces purchasing power, punishes savers, rewards borrowers. Think of it like a sneaky tax the government doesn't have to announce. Keep your money in cash for 10 years, and you'll lose a chunk of your wealth just by holding on to it. Central banks and control. If banks are the engine creating money, central banks are the mechanics trying to keep it from exploding. They manage the money system, controlling interest rates, money supply, credit conditions. When inflation rises too fast, central banks raise interest rates to slow borrowing. When economies stall, they lower rates to encourage spending. But here's the catch. Every action has a trade-off. Low rates make borrowing cheap great for people and businesses who want loans, but can overheat the economy. High rates slow growth and make debt more expensive, potentially causing recessions. There's no perfect solution. It's all a balancing act. Why the system feels unfair. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Those closest to newly created money benefit first. Banks. Large corporations, financial institutions. They spend before prices adjust. By the time the rest of us feel inflation in our grocery bills or rent, they've already used the money to grow assets, invest, or expand. This is why assets rise faster than wages. Wealth concentrates. Saving feels pointless. It's not imagination, it's structure. The system rewards proximity to money creation, not hard work alone. Summary so far. So let's recap before it gets too mind-bendy. Money is a tool, not wealth. Banks create money through lending. Debt powers the system. Inflation erodes purchasing power. Central banks manage trade-offs. The system rewards those closest to money creation. Understanding this changes how you interact with money. You can't control the system entirely, but knowing how it works gives you leverage. Money controls behavior. Think about it. Money dictates careers, relationships, decisions, and even governments. Understanding it isn't about becoming rich overnight. It's about not working inside rules you never agreed to. Most people treat money like a vending machine. Put in effort, get reward. But in reality, it's a giant moving abstract system with invisible levers and engines. You can learn to use them, or you can keep wondering why life feels harder than it should. A short story, The Magic Bank. Let's make this concrete. Imagine a small town with a single bank. You deposit $1,000. The bank keeps $100 in reserve and lends $900 to Alice, who buys a car. That $900 is deposited in Bob's account at another bank, which keeps $90 and lends $810 to Charlie to start a business. Suddenly, that single $1,000 deposit has turned into almost $2,710 circulating in the town. But the trick is, everyone owes debt. Alice owes $900 plus interest. Charlie owes $810 plus interest. The economy looks bigger, wealth seems created, but it all depends on the willingness to borrow. Pay off all the loans? The town's economy collapses. This is exactly how our global economy works, just with trillions of dollars instead of a few thousand. The Internet of Money. Before we go further, here's a fun fact. Most of the world's money exists as numbers on computers. That's right, every transaction you make, Venmo, PayPal, bank transfer, is just a database entry. That number represents trust, not gold, silver, or paper. And these numbers are connected by a massive network. Banks, central banks, and financial institutions all talking to each other, running the global economy like one gigantic invisible software program. Money, debt, and the average person. For most people, the system feels rigged. Why? Because the mechanics of money creation are hidden. Banks expand money via lending. Debt fuels growth. Assets and prices rise before wages. By the time your paycheck arrives, inflation has quietly stolen a portion of your purchasing power. Saving cash is punished, borrowing is rewarded, and financial education becomes essential, not optional. Here's the key takeaway. Understanding money isn't about being paranoid or cynical. It's about seeing the game clearly. Money shapes our lives, controls behavior, and influences almost every decision we make, but most of it doesn't physically exist. Once you understand how banks create it, how debt powers the system, and how inflation silently eats away at your purchasing power, you start seeing the invisible rules everyone else follows without thinking. You don't have to love the system. You don't have to accept it blindly, but knowing how it works gives you leverage. Decisions about saving, borrowing, investing, or even spending become intentional instead of reactive. You stop being a passenger and start steering your financial life with clarity and insight. Money may feel real, but it's mostly an illusion in form. Now that you know the trick, you can use it wisely. If you found this useful, subscribe and hit the bell to learn more about how money, banks, and the economy really work.